Class, your attention, please.
Your teacher has a rule. School is cool.
Attention, everybody. Quiet down. You know what? No, don't quiet down today. We are celebrating, going off track right off the bat. Who Day Nation is in
Who
the
Day
Super Bowl.
Nation, baby.
Let's get wild. It's been a long time coming. I am your professor this week. I am the Cincinnati Bengal himself, Mr. Tyler Wolf, and I am joined as always by my prodigy, Mr. Anthony Cerulli. Mr. Cerulli, have you been riding Cloud 9 like I have been the last week?
Oh, of course. You are not just the professor in wrestling school, but you're the professor in football school, because I've long gone are the days of my New York football fandom. I am now a Cincinnati Bengals fan until further notice. And man, do we have a good team. Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon. These guys are so... I could see them going all the way. Some may even say they're addicted to winning this Super Bowl.
Oh, I see what you did there. And we
You
will
see,
welcome
you
your
see.
fandom also. I always tell people that there's plenty of room to jump on the bandwagon because there was nobody riding the bus before. So come on aboard, everybody.
Sounds good.
And yes, you mentioned addicted. And my God, what a great episode we have lined up today. What a great lesson we have lined up today. Eddie Guerrero versus Brock Lesnar, going all the way back to No Way Out. I always ask the question, what did you know about Eddie and Brock going into this one?
Well, I want to break this down a little bit because, I know obviously a lot about Brock Lesnar. I have to say, honestly, he's probably one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, simply because I've been exposed to him so much. His current run is doing so much to improve upon that status. I love Brock. He's just so explosive, so just a character you're never going to see again is really, or an athlete you're never going to see again. For Eddie, I didn't really grow up with Eddie. Obviously, the most I've seen of him was really, we did an episode on him with Ray and Halloween Havoc. Go back in the archives if you didn't see that one. But I hadn't really seen a lot of Eddie. So this was the first time that I'm seeing him in this mid 2000s version of Eddie Guerrero. And when it comes to the whole story as a whole between Brock and Eddie, really nothing. Obviously, I knew the match happened. I knew that we would get to where we were. But if you were to tell me that we have this whole story ahead of us, though short, still very detailed, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I knew that it was going to be a wild ride. And I was excited for this one, excited to get into some Latino heat, if you will.
Well, ese vato, as Eddie always says, hey, Holmes. Eddie is such a great promo. We're going to definitely get into all that. One thing I really didn't remember going back and watching this was just how short of a time they had to build this match.
Yeah.
And how much they accomplished in such a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And, I didn't put, there's a couple segments I left out as well. There was like a match. It was like a tag team match I left out of this as well. But I mean, they really just crammed a lot into 3-4 week build here. And I'm ready to get into it whenever you are.
Ring the bell, because class is in session.
And that is going to take us to the very first Smackdown after the Royal Rumble in 2004. Chris Benoit has just won the Royal Rumble, and he has decided to go to Monday Night Raw. And this has really angered Vince McMahon. And this makes Paul Heyman very nervous. And that's where we start, with Vince McMahon and Paul Heyman in the ring. First of all, what great chemistry Vince and Heyman have together.
Totally.
Heyman is so good at playing this cowering, slimy, I need to save my ass type of person. And Vince is just the boss, right? Heyman gives this great speech saying, you know what? Screw Chris Benoit. We don't need him. We're going to do what you did when Hall and Nash and Bret Hart and Hogan left. And we're going to say, screw him. And Heyman says that tonight we are going to get, on the very first time ever, a Royal Rumble match on SmackDown with all 15 men that were involved in the Royal Rumble itself at the pay-per-view, plus the addition of Eddie Guerrero in the match as he was in a singles match. Pretty fun little opening segment here. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I love, you said it best. Heyman and McMahon really just have a great chemistry to them. They're so much fun to just listen to bicker at each other. And I also wanted to call out, this is the first that I'm seeing of kind of older Vince McMahon, if you will. I'm very well accustomed to 97 commentator Vince. So it's nice to see him in this authoritative position. Kind of just to break down this segment a little bit, because there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, loved the old SmackDown intro. Just gives you that unique energy that you don't really see nowadays with the more modern setting. Michael Cole and Taz on the call. We're getting a new announce team. No more JR. But I love the change here. Taz on commentary, even in AEW. He's doing some phenomenal work. And it's always good to hear his voice on the call. He brings a nice kind of boost to the energy that the wrestling around this time provided. McMahon is in full power walk mode, just strutting out there. Yeah. And I like that they're doing a nice job in kind of showcasing why the brand supremacy matters here. Of course, like in theory, obviously, it doesn't make sense. You're in the same company. It's just split into two different groups. But with this, you're showcasing how the Royal Rumble really means something. You know, the winner is on Raw. What's SmackDown going to do? We need something else. And Vince is pissed that Heyman didn't build up to this Royal Rumble winner. So, of course, Heyman comes up with this whole spiel about why he is, should be given another chance, if you will. Comes up with this Royal Rumble idea. And we even have a clip of Heyman really pleading his case here.
Now, Vince, hey, this is your company. You're the chairman of the board. You're the majority stockholder. And you have every right to come out here and say, screw Paul Heyman. I'll give someone else the opportunity. Or you can share this vision, Vince. This is after all, just coming out of your vision. And you can see this, Vince. We can make history together tonight, Vince. Network television history. Right here in Washington, D.C. We can do it all over again. And tonight, in your very ring, present a Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Right.
I also just wanted to say that, like, this promo was about 10 minutes, maybe give or take a 2 or another minute, but this promo really flew by. It gets the point across, but it tells a story at the same time. It's building that connection between Heyman and McMahon. I think this was the perfect way to start up a show right after the Royal Rumble, kind of giving the what's the B story, if you will, now that Chris Benoit is over on Raw and he's going to be fighting for the world title. Well, what's going to happen with the Undisputed title? So we have a lot of different story here, and that's going to take us into the SmackDown Royal Rumble.
Yeah. So before we get to the SmackDown Royal Rumble, we mentioned that Paul Heyman added Eddie Guerrero. He also added Hardcore Holly into this match as well. Pop quiz time.
Okay.
Who did both Eddie Guerrero and Hardcore Holly respectively fight at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view?
Oh, man. Eddie Guerrero fought... Okay, well, I'll start with Hardcore Holly, because Hardcore Holly fought Brock Lesnar for the championship. Eddie Guerrero, I will say, fought... Wow. Kurt Angle?
He fought Chavo Guerrero.
They
were having a family feud.
I did not know that one.
Yeah, and so they've added these guys into the match. I'm not going to run through the whole Royal Rumble here. I want to just kind of hit a couple key points, and then I want to throw it over to you for the ending, because I really want to get your take on the ending. Yep. They booked Big Show really strong, rightfully so. Yep. John Cena really needs to watch some Bret Hart to get notes on how to limp towards the ring. Your boy Nunzio made his big entrance and got eliminated during a commercial break.
Oh, my goodness.
And then Eddie Guerrero comes out, and Eddie is just so smooth in this match. He does great spots with Billy Gunn, great spot eliminating A-Train. And then the last 7 minutes of this match is Eddie Guerrero and Kurt Angle. Yes, please.
Yes, absolutely. I texted you and I said, I can't watch this whole match. You have Eddie and, Kurt Angle with the last 10 minutes of the YouTube video still playing. I'm just going to tune into this part. But be it that I did really watch this, unbelievable counters from both guys. The technical work, obviously, just looks really strategic. And I think we've mentioned this on the show before, that Whenever you see technical wrestling nowadays, it's kind of just for show, if you will.
Mhm.
Here, Angle and Eddie really take their time to make sure that every move is done for a purpose. And you're really going to see that when we get into the main event segment of Eddie and Brock. But here, the technical work, especially with these two just masterminds, really on display beautifully here. Eddie gets some extreme hang time on some Germans from Kurt Angle here, which looks beautiful. Another beautiful counter by Eddie over the ropes into an ankle lock, and then ankle lock counter by Angle. Just so many crazy sequences here going on. Some of which I can't even keep up with just because it's so fast paced, but still 7 minutes after technically Royal Rumble Battle Royal, whatever you want to call it. These near eliminations are getting as close as it gets. I write in my notes, Eddie is just hanging. There's a point where Eddie's hanging on and it looks like one wrong move and it's just done for him because he's literally just hanging on the edge there. Kurt catches Eddie on the turnbuckle, lightning speed. Both guys get knocked on onto the ropes, which really looked nice. A lot of just great sequences here. My description can't do it justice. Take advantage of the playlist in the description below. And if you want to skip the rest of the SmackDown Rumble, be my guest.
Yeah, you're not missing much.
Yeah, you're really not missing much, but please check out the last 8 minutes or so of that match. It's Eddie Guerrero and Kurt Angle. What else could you really want here? And at the end of the day, you really have a great finish to put Eddie over strong, and it really makes you want to see Brock and Eddie. But at the same time, I like that Kurt Angle was in the bottom too as well, because I'm sure a lot of people really want to see Brock and Kurt Angle as well. You know, kind of rematch from the previous year of WrestleMania. It's a lot of stuff that you could be doing here, but Brock and Eddie seems to be the perfect way to go because he's so over with the fans.
Yeah, absolutely. If this was like an actual Royal Rumble pay-per-view, I would put this up there as the greatest final two next to Shawn and Taker.
Sure.
I think that these guys were right on par with that. What a great way to get Eddie over strong. He's coming off a big momentum at the pay-per-view. The crowd is clearly behind Eddie Guerrero here.
Yeah.
And the finishing sequence, the suplex counters into the elimination. I loved everything about this. If we just stopped right now, A+ all around.
Yeah.
But we are not going to stop now, because now we have to start building for a title match.
Mhm.
And we're going to get the first confrontation between Eddie Guerrero and Brock Lesnar. And Eddie doesn't even get a word out before Brock decides to come out to the ring and just kind of feel out Eddie, I guess. Eddie's facial expressions are so good right off the get-go here. He goes from being like super, hey, I'm so happy, to when Brock's music hits, just serious. Okay, the champ is coming. This is my moment. Eddie just so over with the crowd. And you know, a lot of times we talk about in wrestling, maybe missing the boat on pulling the trigger on guys or doing it too soon or too late. This was the absolute perfect time to pull the trigger on Eddie Guerrero. The people were ready for it. He was ready for it. Just all around perfection. Brock Lesnar's promo work here, fantastic. And then, you know, and we'll get into this in the next segment as well. Brock Lesnar really doesn't get the praise that he deserves on cutting promos. He's fantastic. Putting over all the big names that he's beat and made tap out, I thought was really good. Brock clearly is overlooking Eddie Guerrero because him and Goldberg have some beef that have kind of been going back and forth. Now, this is back in the day when brand extensions actually meant something. You didn't get really hardly any crossover stuff. And leading into this WrestleMania and the next year's WrestleMania is really when the brand extension started to fizzle out a little bit.
Right.
But you would only get interaction with guys during the big four pay-per-views. Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series were the only shows where both Raw and SmackDown talent were together. And they really took advantage of stuff like that. So having Brock even talk about Goldberg right now felt like a big deal because they were on opposite brands, right?
Okay.
I love Eddie Guerrero, all the little things he says. Hey, Holmes, hey, ese vato. Yeah. Like, he's just so charismatic. His promo was unreal, just talking about everything he's overcome, everything that he's lost from his family, battling his demons. It was real. And then Brock just had his great response that just led to Eddie punching him out and posing with the title. I thought this was a grand slam segment to start the build off here.
See, Brock, at No Way Out, you're not going to be facing Eddie Guerrero. You're going to be facing all the battle within me, all the fire that burns within me. You're gonna be facing Latino Heat.
You can tell that Eddie Guerrero has spent many classes in the Mick Foley class of just going from emotion to emotion in a promo. Unbelievable stuff here. Really just drew me into the story. Really because there's a reason why Eddie's fighting and there's a reason why Brock isn't taking him seriously. And that's actually something that I didn't pick up on until you really brought it up, is that I didn't like originally that Brock kept mentioning Goldberg, but the whole story is that Brock Lesnar isn't taking Eddie seriously. So of course he's not going to mention Eddie. Of course he's going to go to a more suitable opponent like Goldberg. It only makes sense. So breaking down the segment a little bit, first of all, I love that we're in the home of my Cavs here. I saw that little Cleveland Cavaliers logo in the back. By the way, shout out to the Cavs. They have a beautiful record in the NBA right now, but that's for another podcast. Anyways, it's strange to see Brock Lesnar cutting a very detailed and lengthy promo, especially around this time. Even with his new run, like he more goes along the lines of shorter but more notable promos, if you will. He doesn't really take that time to break down stuff or, go in detail. He's more for those one-liners every once in a while, but he keeps it simple. But here he's really, breaking it down, going through all of his opponents, which I loved with Eddie. All of some really good stuff here. And Eddie really just has this natural and relatable essence to him that it just clicks with the crowd. He's the perfect guy for them, and it's obvious that they're going this way because how could you not? He's so over with the fans. Yeah, I even wrote in my notes, like I didn't love Goldberg being mentioned, but it fits with the story here, and I just wrote, holy shit, because Eddie is just on fire. Goes from the levels of kind of cockiness, working the crowd a little bit, to sadness, to just anger, rage in his eyes, and we get a little post promo brawl, if you will. All around really good segment, sets up the match beautifully, and we're not done there with these explosive promos.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into a grand slam in a second here, but you mentioned something. You said Mick Foley and how Eddie took a page out of Foley's book. There's something that Foley and Eddie both have in common when they cut their promos, and that's that they draw from reality.
Yes.
Foley he's gone on record, and I know reading this in his book that he had a vendetta against The Rock. He was upset at The Rock in real life for not checking on him after Royal Rumble with all the chair shots.
Oh wow.
And instead of just being like, Rock, what the hell? Why aren't you talking to me? He wanted to hold on to that anger because he wanted to use it for a promo. and he's like, he said, like, I held resentment to The Rock for the wrong reasons there, but I wanted to save that for a promo in the future.
That just shows so much dedication, man. Like, you're gonna hold resentment to someone just to put it into your craft. That's as much as it's weird out of context, for the context of wrestling, it's just it makes it so much more. That's why Mick Foley is one of the greatest of all time, and you're starting to see here that Eddie could be in that conversation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Eddie was really hitting a stride here. But someone else that was hitting a stride in this next one, Brock Lesnar, man. I love funny Brock Lesnar.
Yes.
Whether it's him coming out to this mariachi band with the sombrero on dancing, or boombox Brock Lesnar.
Oh my goodness,
or
yes.
When Brock wants to be funny, he's hilarious. We'll paint the picture here. There's a mariachi band in the ring. Brock Lesnar comes out just dancing and having the best time ever. Sombrero on, gets in the ring, starts dancing. The trumpet goes off. Brock sells the trumpet, which I thought was absolutely amazing. I'm really down with no Heyman Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
The Heyman and Brock, obviously they're magic together, but it's run its course at this time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And Eddie Guerrero's just going to rush right out and clear the ring. He's not having any time for that. Brock Lesnar is going to get real personal here. He's going to call Eddie an addict. He's going to run him down while putting over his accomplishments, and just says that he hates guys like Eddie that wasted his talent and wasted his time. I don't want to talk about what Eddie Guerrero said in return, and I don't normally request this or put this out there, but we're going to listen to this. Just play it.
The truth is, Brock, I am an addict. See, Brock, about 3 years ago, Holmes, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Vato, your home state. That's right, Vato. In the shower, in the locker room. Oh, man, I was high, bro. I was high, high, high. And I don't remember much about that night, I said, but what I do remember, they carried me out of that arena and they carried me straight into rehab. And see, they didn't do that. I did that to myself, Vato. But that was just the beginning of it, I say. Because see, through all that time, bro, through all those 3 years, not only did I wind up losing my job, I lost my wife, I lost my kids, and I lost myself. I lost my spirit. I disgraced my race. I disgraced my family, and I disgraced myself. But you know what, Brock? I came to a point in my life, Vato. I came to a point where it was do or die, Holmes. I had to make a decision. Do or die. And you know what? I did. Because I'm here right now. Day by day, by the grace of God, I have earned my way back into this ring, man. Day by day, by the grace of God, I have earned the respect of my kids again. Day by day, I have earned my life back. And see, Holmes, when I stand across you and I see that across your waist, you know what that symbolizes for me, I say? That symbolizes for me, I'm sorry. That's my way of telling my family I'm sorry. That's my way of telling my kids I'm going to provide a better way of life for them. I'm going to get the bikes that they wanted. I'm going to give them a better education. That's my new addiction, home. See, when I step into this ring, yeah, bro, I am addicted. I'm addicted to the high that I get from them. I'm addicted to the high that I get when I go home and I tell my family, hey, I'm doing it. I'm addicted to the satisfaction that I get to tell everybody like you that didn't believe in me, you can stick it up your ass. I'm addicted to the do or die feeling, Holmes, that I'm going to have this Sunday night at No Way Out. Because you know as well as I do, Holmes, oh, what a high it is when we're in here, brother. See, but the difference between me and you, bro, is that I'm an addict and I'll do anything and run over anybody that it's going to take to get that around my waist and get my high at No Way Out and become the WWE Champion. Órale, vato!
What more do you need to say? That is one of the greatest promos in WWE history.
Yes, absolutely. I knew this promo was coming because I've heard of the addiction promo, but I didn't know what anyone meant by that. Like, I figured something to do with being addicted to wrestling or whatever, but like, you need to listen to this promo to really understand. And when you do listen to it, I'm sure you will agree with us, it's got to be one of the greatest promos of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you talk about those promos like the Dusty Rhodes Hard Time promos and anything Ric Flair does or whatever. This is up there. This is one of the
Yeah.
best
Oh,
promos
for
ever.
sure. I also want to say, because I want to comment on Sombrero Brock for a minute. Uh, the entrance was just amazing. Reminds me of him nowadays, with just all the humor that he's throwing in. And as a fellow trumpet player myself, I have to say that guy was awful. He was not a good trumpet player. He tried to do the and he was just shot. I could already tell that his lips were just busted from playing before. But no, nevertheless, both of these guys really put their all into this. They are masters at controlling the crowd. I think that's also something that I'm really picking up on, is that they're able to like make you cheer for them, make you boo for them, give a reaction. They're excellent at this. Eddie specifically, there were times when the crowd was just silent. And I think silence in this regard really adds so much to the promo, because it shows that you're trying to figure out where he's getting at, but you're really listening to what he's saying because the words are resonating with them. So with that, I really appreciate this promo. I feel like it has to be one of the greatest of all time. And if this didn't get you hyped up for the match, let alone the other promo that was, you know, somewhere on its level, probably not really on its level, but like maybe a half step down. If these two promos alone didn't get you ready for No Way Out, I don't know what will.
Yeah, you're watching the wrong show, guys, and you should probably stop watching professional wrestling if that's the case.
Yes, please, for your own sake, please.
So before we get into the match here, I'm just going to fill you in on a couple little small pieces that I didn't send you just because they weren't really too necessary.
Okay.
But another match coming up at this No Way Out pay-per-view is a triple threat #1 contender match. It was between Kurt Angle, The Big Show, and John Cena, with the winner receiving a world title shot at WrestleMania. Part of the build-up for this, the main event of this addicted show on SmackDown was supposed to be Eddie Guerrero and Kurt Angle versus The Big Show and Brock Lesnar, kind of mixing these matches in together.
Sure.
A backstage altercation happened. Kurt Angle gets laid out, so Eddie's going to go at it alone in a handicap match. As Eddie makes his entrance, John Cena's Thugonomic music hits. We get the tag team match there. The match ends up with Angle coming out with the chair, laying out Big Show, Eddie Guerrero taking John Cena's chain, low-blowing Lesnar, and Eddie Guerrero steals a pin on Brock Lesnar leading into the pay-per-view.
Okay.
The other thing that happened was during the pay-per-view itself, Bill Goldberg was invited to the pay-per-view with a front row ticket by, I think, Heyman and Lesnar, or whoever. Lesnar for sure.
Yeah.
During the middle of the pay-per-view, Lesnar comes out and taunts Goldberg, who's sitting in the front row. Goldberg jumps over the barrier. They have a brawl, leads to a spear and a jackhammer, and Goldberg gets arrested and taken out of the building. Just a couple little things there.
Nice.
And
I like all these little details here. Everything's intertwining.
Yeah, well, and you know, you're really building towards WrestleMania here with your three of the biggest matches being built, all intertwining in one here. You know, you've got Brock and Goldberg. You've got your triple threat with the winner fighting Eddie. You know what I mean? There's a lot of cool stuff going on here. And that takes us to February the 15th, 2004, at the Cow Palace in Daly City, California. I always thought it was San Francisco, the Cow Palace. And it's going to be your WWE champion, Brock Lesnar, defending his title against Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero. Mr. Cerulli, the class is yours.
All right. So, be it that I am in a classroom setting today, I feel that going forward, I want to break these matches down a little bit more. Really try and find the story from this, and maybe I'll appreciate the matches even more than I am already. So this is the first match that I'm really putting this new message towards. And I got to tell you, if you really just sit there and follow the story, you start to pick up on things that you would never get on the first watch, the second watch, the third watch, so be it. So let's break this down. So first of all, of course, I have to say it that Lesnar has really strong back body drops and suplexes here. He really snaps Eddie, but Eddie, like I mentioned with Kurt Angle, he gets the perfect amount of air time that it just looks so beautiful. Like he's all the way up in the air, but it's still that crunch, that snap that really gets you. There's a Hurricane Rana into a power bomb, and he spun him around. That was a really cool spot from Eddie, kind of missing the Hurricane Rana. Brock kind of botches it a little bit by falling down, but it kind of turns into a power bomb. I like the save from Taz and Michael Cole kind of selling that. But then he shakes his head and just spins him around like a Cesaro swing, if you will, of excellent proportions, and just flings him out of the ring. Eddie continues to sell beautifully for Brock throughout the match, really slowing down Brock, and he's managing to control the speed of the match. Brock really slows this pace down throughout the entirety of the show. Eddie tries to keep up a little bit and kind of, be that energy boost, but I like that Brock is the Goliath to the David here. What else? So Eddie takes advantage of Brock's weakness, which in this case is the knee. We all know that I love working the body parts, and the knee is definitely on display here. I love the story that's being told that Eddie, who's the vet, is working the knee and trying to get him down, but Brock is the rookie, and he's just so explosive that he's not trying to stay true to focus to anything. And I think that's actually more of a story than the David versus Goliath here. I think it's more vet versus rookie, because Eddie Guerrero has a more focus to his wrestling, whereas Brock Lesnar, he's all over the place. He's giving you suplexes, he's giving you back body drops, he's choking you out, he's doing all these different things, and I love this. I love this essence to it. Eddie's very successful in working the knee, and I like when Eddie is able to work in like a hope spot from working the knee, because he'll get him down. Sure. Eddie then bounces off the ropes. Brock immediately clotheslines him. So that shows, we still need to work the knee a little bit more. Brock is still dominant. You need to find a way to take down that weakness so that you're able to open the door a little more. It's really a match of strategy and experience on Eddie's end versus improvisation and explosiveness on Brock's end, which I love this whole dynamic. That makes big moves like the dive on the outside of the ring from Eddie to Brock that much more impactful, because it's the first time that Eddie is taking true advantage. So he's working the knee. That's great and all. But then when you take those big moves, such as, I wrote some down here, like every big move that he brings in is strategic. The dive on the outside, Brock's knee is caving in, so it makes sense to do a move like that. There was another one, where was it? The STF and driving the knee into the back. Obviously that's a big one there. Even the big back body drop by Eddie. It makes sense because Brock is only basically fighting on one knee, so he can't get his footing for both legs to really, stay true to the ground. So a lot of different strategy here. We're entering the second half of the match now, and Eddie pulls out some non-knee centered moves. This kind of shows that he's able to maintain this momentum. It kind of shows that Eddie needs to be able to control the entirety of the match if he wants to win, not just the knee. So that's where I come into the whole discussion that we've had many times of including these big moves in matches and making it, super kick this, super kick that. You need to strategize your signature and finisher moves. You can't just come out here, hit a finisher in the early match and kick out. Those moves need to be, and not just your finishing moves, but your signature moves as well. You need to work a body part so that you can get to those moves. And I think that Eddie just does this perfectly here. You can also see that Eddie is getting desperate with another STF. He's resorting to what is working, which I think really plays into that David versus Goliath here. I don't always like the reusing of moves, but at the end of the day, if it works in the story, then it's going to work. I think it's excellent here. I also really appreciate Brock's lack of a central focus, as I mentioned before, because at the end of the day, he's a rookie. He's going to do some slams and power bombs and suplexes. He's all over the place. So it keeps it from having a central focus. But at the same time, Brock in his offense is focusing on that knee. So there's a lot of strategy here, which I love. I would have liked to have seen the inclusion of the knee to be at the demise of Lesnar a little bit more. I'll give you an example. Like when Eddie breaks out of the sleeper hold by Brock going headfirst into the turnbuckle. I believe that his right knee caves in. This is very specific, but just hear me out here. Like, his right knee caves in, but he's working the left knee the entire time. So if I'm Brock, I would, cave in the left knee so that it makes sense to go head first into the turnbuckle. Just a little detail, but some more offense turning into Brock, turning into Eddie getting the advantage due to the work that he's already done on Brock. It could have added a little bit more of a layer to it, but that's literally the littlest thing. There's a look on Eddie's face at one point. I believe Brock is doing some type of hold on him, but you get a really good shot of Eddie's face where it kind of just shows like he's starting to realize that he needs to be more explosive and match that level of Brock. Sure, we've worked the knee the entire time, and he's going to keep doing that, but we need some of those signature moves. So he does the 3 suplexes. He does a few other knees, a few other moves rather, because this works in the later stages. Because now we've done all of the working the body parts, setting up, doing the hope spots. Now it's time for Eddie to take control, get the crowd really riled up, so that we can eventually go into the frog splash and the win. Just don't pull out big moves for the sake of doing big moves is what I'm trying to get at. There has to be a lot of psychology here. And I think Brock and Eddie is a perfect example of all of this. If you really sit down and break it down. And then we get to the finish. So I actually wanted to swing this over to you. What did you feel on the inclusion of Goldberg? I originally did not like it because I thought it took away from Eddie's win, and I thought that it made it look a little weak. But now in story, I kind of understand that. Even you mentioned before how Eddie got a pinfall victory over Brock, so immediately Brock is taking him more seriously. That gets him off focus on Goldberg, who he still has to deal with. So there's a whole big story there. I don't think you really needed to include Goldberg here. It kind of weakens Eddie's win the tiniest bit for me, but nevertheless, frog splash, big win. Eddie celebrates, and it's a beautiful moment.
I actually am the opposite of you. At first, when I first watched this, when it happened, I hated it because I hated Goldberg and I loved Eddie.
Sure.
But now, like, I go back and I watch it, and Goldberg comes out, but he doesn't impact the finish. You know what I mean?
Okay.
He comes out and they fight for another couple minutes after his interference. So yeah, you got a great near fall out of the Goldberg inclusion.
Right.
And then the thing that I like is that, and I know Taz kind of stretched this a little bit here, but when Eddie does the reversal of the F5 and hits the DDT, he lands on the belt. Brock lands on the belt. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah.
And that's why Taz yelled out, "He's cheating!" Because lie, cheat, steal. But that was what actually took Brock down, was that the belt was in the ring and Eddie used it to his advantage by counting the F5 and DDTing him on the belt. Okay. And then he hit the frog splash. So it's like, yeah, Goldberg interfered and hit his spear and whatever, but it didn't make Eddie win the match. Eddie still won the match on his own. So that's what I'm okay with the interference.
Okay, I understand that completely. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously you needed to do something with Goldberg and Brock here. So I think it makes sense to have a little bit of an interference. And from what you're saying now, I really didn't catch as much as I caught in this match, which I really narrowed down. I barely caught that one. So it definitely adds a little bit to it. Helps the grade a little bit, I will say.
And what a celebration.
And what a celebration. Beautiful stuff. Just a great way to end off the match. What else could you say about it, really? I mean, I'll get into my grades if you want me to. What
I was going to say is the location of this match helps it a lot as well.
Exactly.
Being in California, there's a very high Hispanic market in California.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that the walk up to this event was humongous.
Really?
Like the walk up business the day of the show was a very, very big draw. People were invested in Eddie.
Wow.
And they hit a home run here. Eddie Guerrero, this was the right time to make him your world champion.
For sure. Absolutely. So let me get into my ratings because this one was a little hard to grade for the build, at least. I'll start with the build because it was so short. Of course, you only had a little bit of time, but we've seen in the past that short builds can really still be great builds. I think the most recent example of that was really pick your choice of Eddie Kingston in AEW. Every one of his builds he's been able to make great, even though they're 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So with that, with the short build and everything, I'm going to give this an A-.
Okay.
I think, if it was maybe a week longer, kind of have a little bit more of maybe Brock offense on Eddie, something to really put Brock as like this beast. I think that could have added a lot to it. I originally took off points for the Goldberg mention, but I like how it plays into the story. So overall, I mean, majority of this is being done because of the Eddie promos. Like that alone really adds to it. And even the SmackDown Rumble, like those last few minutes of Eddie and Kurt really stuck out to me. Maybe I'll even bump it up to an A, but for now I'm going to stick to an A-. And then we get to the match. I'm also going to have to give it an A. I think there were little points where it was a little bit too slow, but I think it works. I always say that I don't really like when it's too slow, but when you're talking about the story of Brock Lesnar being the overpowering, trying to keep it slowed down, as Eddie is that more quick, lightning fast offense, it works here. So, I didn't think it was a perfect match, of course. I think there were spots that could have been better. The Goldberg inclusion, I'm still a little torn on. So with all of that, I'm going to keep it to an A, but a very strong A at that.
Okay. For me, the build, it could have just been the Addicted promo, and I would be fine with that. A plus for the build for me. That promo, the two Eddie promos were enough for me I don't care. Brock Lesnar could have came in the ring and took a shit, and I would have still get nothing could ruin the build after that promo for me. I'm with you with the match. I think an A. I think this is one of the better in-ring matches that WWE has put on as well.
Absolutely.
I think this is maybe the best Ruthless Aggression era match that they've ever done. These guys, the chemistry, and it's funny, we never got to see a follow-up on this. They never had another match.
Honestly, I don't even think they needed another follow-up with the amount of just hype and the perfect execution that you got here. I don't even think you needed another one. This was a beautiful way to end off the story, a beautiful story leading up to it, and both guys looked phenomenal here.
See, if you're looking at it now in hindsight, let's play a little quarterback booking real quick before we get to the
all right, Joey B, let's go.
Joey B's got some quarterbacking, some armchair quarterbacking here. Looking back on things in hindsight now, Brock Lesnar left the company a month later against Goldberg in one of the worst WrestleMania matches in history. We got a great match between Eddie and Kurt Angle at WrestleMania. How great would it have been if this match was at WrestleMania instead?
That is very true. I think that they probably wanted to hold off on this just because of Benoit.
Yeah, you got your Benoit moment. I know. But
but it would have been really great. It would be the perfect main event for a WrestleMania too. Eddie and Brock, really this whole story leading up to Mania. We would be talking about this as one of the greatest Mania stories of all time if it was bumped up another month. I think that's really interesting.
Absolutely. But, Goldberg and Lesnar on paper is a much bigger match. I get why they did it. I'm not saying this should have been. I'm just saying what if,
What if?
So honor roll time.
All right.
Usually, I like to be a little silly in the honor roll, and there was some consideration for that this week. A strong candidate would have been Vince McMahon's walk. Always great. So I'm going to kind of group my honor roll into one segment because I really wanted to give it to Sombrero Brock Lesnar, but I'm going to be serious this week, and Sombrero Brock Lesnar was a part of this, but the Addicted promo.
Yes.
It's so Sombrero Brock Lesnar by default is involved in that, but
and the mariachi band with the horrible trumpet player
with your new mortal enemy. It's gonna be
mortal enemy. He is on my shit
list. You and Nunzio against Brock and the trumpet player. Book it, WrestleMania. Here we come.
And Silver King's the ref, but that's for
obviously. He's not quite Gold King yet. One more win.
Not quite Gold King.
One more win. Off topic, and just because I want our listeners to know this too, but you've seen the Bret Hart promo in WCW where he's hyping up his new challenger, because it reminds me of Silver King, right?
Oh yeah.
It's I think that El Dandy should be my challenger. Mean Gene's like, El Dandy, how dare you hurt the good name of El Dandy, Mean Gene. That's my off topic rant here. Let's get back on topic. Let's talk about what we're gonna do next week.
Let's do it.
Next week, we're going to do something a little different.
Oh.
I would like to invite you to a party next week.
A party? I love parties.
A party. Now, this party, though, it's held in a very unique location.
Okay.
It is in the White Castle of Fear. And
I'm going to have to decline on that one, I would say.
I mean, Big Van Vader's the host. I'm going to take us all the way back to February 21st, 1993. We are going back to Super Brawl 3 in WCW, Big Van Vader and Sting in the White Castle of Fear strap match.
All right. Well, I do have to say that hearing those two names, be it separate or together, makes me so invested in next week. First Sting match, first Vader match. Love it. White Castle of Fear, you said?
Bring your popcorn because there's a movie.
You're just going to have to tune in next week, folks. don't know what I'm getting myself into, but come along for the ride.
That's it. And as you can see above us, all of the fun stuff. Counted Out 7, Titantron. Down below us, Classic Match Classroom, CM Classroom, not to be confused with CM Punk.
CM Punk. There
I
it
love
is.
it, man. I do it on my show all the time as well.
Oh, I know. I hear it all the time.
It's taken over the world, man. It's taken over the world.
Maybe Punk will come on a show one day. Who knows?
Maybe. Probably not, though.
I hear he loves podcasts, but maybe not.
Yeah, I think he might be steering away from podcasts after the last one.
Yeah, I would say so.
We won't get you sued, though. I promise.
Yep, we're all good. All good.
Well, maybe. Anyways, I got nothing more. What do you think?
I think that's it. I have nothing else to say. This was a great match, great episode, and you're going to have to tune into the next one and the next one after that and the next one after that because we have so much great content lined up for you.
And go into the archives because we got some cool stuff that we've already done.
Hell yeah.
And on that note, then, class has been dismissed. Ese vato.